Have you ever promised yourself this time will be different? Perhaps you decided to be more patient, to exercise consistently, to communicate better, to stop returning to the same unhealthy relationship, to stop procrastinating. You genuinely wanted to change. For a few days, perhaps even a few weeks, everything went well. Then, almost without noticing, you found yourself back in familiar territory. If you have ever experienced that, you are not alone. And more importantly, it doesn't necessarily mean you have failed. It may simply mean you have underestimated how change actually works. I'm Lobone Raditladi, clinical psychologist, leadership consultant, and author of Through a Systemic Lens. Today, I'd like to explore why meaningful change is often much more difficult than we expect. We think change is about willpower. Most of us grow up believing that change is a matter of determination. If you really wanted to change, you just need more discipline. Try harder. There's some truth in that. Discipline certainly matters. But if discipline alone was enough, very few of us would struggle with the same patterns year after year. The reality is that change involves much more than making a decision because every behavior exists within a system. Systems naturally resist change. One of the most fascinating things about systems is that they seek stability. Families do this, organizations do this, communities do this, even our own minds do this. Once a pattern becomes familiar, the system begins to treat it as normal, even when it isn't healthy. Imagine a family where one person has always kept the peace. The moment they begin setting healthy boundaries, something interesting often happens. Others become uncomfortable. Not necessarily because boundaries are wrong, but because the system has been organized around the old pattern. When one part of a system changes, every other part is affected. Sometimes people unconsciously try to pull things back to the way they were, not because they are bad people, because familiar patterns feel safe. Your brain also prefers the familiar. This happens inside us too. The brain likes efficiency. It creates habits because habits require less energy than constant decision making. That's helpful when you are driving to work or brushing your teeth. But it also means emotional habits become automatic. You don't consciously choose every reaction. Many reactions have been rehearsed hundreds or thousands of times. The more often a pathway is used, the easier it becomes to use again. That's why change can feel exhausting. You are not simply replacing one behavior. You are gradually creating a new pathway. That takes repetition. It also takes patience and compassion toward yourself. Change affects identity. Sometimes the hardest part isn't changing the behavior, it's changing the identity attached to it. If someone has always believed, I'm the one who keeps everyone happy, setting boundaries may feel like becoming a different person. If someone has always believed, I'm not confident, speaking up in meetings can feel uncomfortable even when they have valuable ideas. Change asks us to let go of identities we have carried over the years. That can feel surprisingly unsettling. What actually helps? How do we create lasting change? First, stop expecting perfection. Growth is rarely a straight line. Second, focus on small, consistent actions rather than dramatic transformations. Tiny changes, repeated consistently, often create far greater results than one big burst of motivation. Third, be curious instead of critical. When you slip back into an old pattern, don't immediately ask, what's wrong with me? Instead, ask, what has made this old pattern feel safer than the new one? The question often opens the door for understanding, and understanding is where sustainable change begins. Real change isn't simply deciding to become someone different. It's patiently helping both yourself and your relationships adjust to a new way of living. So the next time change feels difficult, don't assume you are failing. You may simply be doing the slow, important work of rewiring patterns that have existed for many years. I'd like to leave you with one question. What is one small change you have been trying to make? And what system might be making that change more difficult? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If this conversation has been helpful, please subscribe and join me as we continue exploring psychology, leadership, relationships, and personal growth through a systemic lens. Until next time, see the system, understand the pattern, create meaningful change.